The Iowa women find their tournament lives over as they fall in the NCAA tournament to Oklahoma. Not just beat soundly. Plus, Ben McCollum, why he's a great fit for Iowa. More on the new Iowa head man today. Locked on Hawkeye.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can listen to us, and you can watch us on YouTube. While you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. Just takes a moment and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later on in today's episode. Well, a frustrating one on Monday afternoon as Iowa is absolutely blitzkrieged by Oklahoma. Going into this game, we talked about the tempo that Oklahoma plays with, the size that they have, but boy, the toughness definitely showed out. That physicality and that size was a big component, and you're left looking at this team and the way that it finishes here. It felt very much like a lot of teams that we saw in the past with Iowa women's basketball. Good enough to make a tournament, win a game in the tournament. But when it came against the elites, that next tier of team, they just weren't able to compete. And that definitely played out in a big time way. So Iowa jumps out to a 10-4 lead. And even in that 10-4 lead, Lucy Olson was not playing well in the opening 5-6 minutes of the game. She started to heat up. Unfortunately, nobody else did. And this is going to be one that you look back upon and just how poorly it went. Now, Oklahoma, you got to give credit. Former Jenny Lillis, now Jenny Baranczyk, former Iowa women's basketball player. She has assembled a roster. They got some players. And bringing in Reagan Beers, you start with that from Oregon State. Having a post player who was in foul trouble during the first half of the game, and it didn't matter, even if she finishes with a double-double. But Sahara Williams, a young lady from Waterloo, remember watching her at the state tournament and seeing her along with who they saw the previous round, and Haley Polk, watching those two together at Waterloo West. They were a couple of talented players. But she was ready to go. She was ready to take on her home state team. The depth, but I go back to the physicality. And that's the part that I think we're finding out those kind of teams are incredibly difficult. And I got something I want to get to a little bit later on just about, this run. And we're not used to this last couple of years, right? Making these runs to the second weekend, then into the Final Four, and then ultimately playing as many games as possible, playing for the national championship in back-to-back seasons. It just changes the equation a little bit. And we had so much fun. Went down to Dallas 2 years ago, took my daughter, seeing the growth of this sport and something for everydayers. I talk about this a lot with the women's program. I've been a longtime supporter. Had a close connection with one of my former roommates and the women's basketball program. So always had a closer view of it. And because of that, I've always enjoyed the sport and enjoyed watching it and getting to know the young women that are involved. And of course, the coaching staff, going back with Coach Bluter and Coach Jensen and Fitz and them. And here we are today. And this program that feels like it has an opportunity to step forward. This is not going to be anything, I don't believe, that's going to linger. They got beat by a better team. And they got beat soundly. And you can quibble, right? During that 16-1 run, should Jana used a timeout? Okay. Was it going to matter in the grand scheme of things? No. The reverse layup, intentional foul, and one of the dumbest calls of all time. It's not an intentional foul. Intention, it's the word, right? Intention, intentional. It's not intentional when you're shooting a reverse layup. Ref said that they had to call it, just repeating over and over and over again. Okay. Did Iowa get a bad whistle? You got beat by 34. Let's not do that. I think you guys know, if you've been watching for a while, I in general do not like to blame officiating. Like, get heated sometimes, absolutely, animated, disappointed, frustrated, all those things. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But sometimes we got to pump the brakes just a little bit on that. You see the careers come to an end, and I want to start with Cynthia Fulter. Gets a goose egg, her final time out there, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, just couldn't get anything to fall. Had a couple of good looks, had a couple of those drives to the lane, those straight line drives that she has been so good at. Beating the defender, the spot, and just, they weren't there. They weren't falling. At least Lucy Olson. And, it's so disappointing that we only got to get 1 year of Lucy Olson. And when she was struggling at parts early this season, and we know the bag that it took to get her and the NIL money that it took, and there were concerns. But as you saw her get more comfortable with this team, become more aggressive with this team, and really playing her style of basketball, the 1 year rental players that you get in this new environment in college basketball, you wish you had more time. And for a player like Lucy Olson, that's not just talented, but that smile on her face, the joy that she brings, that's the tough part, that we only got a year of that. We'll see going forward what this team needs, because I think we learned in this loss to Oklahoma, there's work to be done. We can be excited about next year and Addie Deal coming in and what she's going to be able to do. And, is she going to be a day one starter? The return of Kylie Feuerbach coming back, who was hot early on, knocking down a couple of 3-pointers. And we know about her defensive intensity and what she can do on that end of the floor. And Taylor McCabe, can there be one more year of growth out of her? Can you play Stulke and Hayden together? The development we need to see out of Hannah Stulke at the power forward position. Those things all need to be there also. So there is a lot. There's a lot still to be excited about. There's a lot about the future of this program. You look at the prospects that they're in for the class of 2026 and 27. This was a bridge year. But I think in order to build that bridge a little bit further, and then in order to compete, Iowa's NIL budget is in good shape in women's basketball. And because of that, don't take that step back. You made the tournament. You won a game. That was something that was a question mark during, the 5-game losing streak that they had this season, if they were even going to be able to get there. So those are things that I think overall you're left looking at and saying, we're not done yet. And we got to continue to build the momentum with the program overall. So we got that going on right now. A tough loss at the end of the season. One final thing on the women's basketball front. And I mentioned the run to the championships the last 2 years. And I think how so many people obviously became fans of the women's basketball program. However, I wanted to go with this. With Caitlin Clark. And what we see from her over these last 2 years. I mean, you look at the squad, you look at this team, and you see what they're doing, the way they're doing it, and what she was able to take. Take a squad like this, take a squad and turn them into everything. I apologize. I am not sure what is happening with these notifications, but it's driving me absolutely crazy, and I'm sure you too. Hopefully we have this fixed up. Regardless. All right. Back to the topic at hand. Sorry. Caitlin Clark taking this group, taking these teams to the big dance and to the championship game. I mean, you go back and as we saw, the physicality, the rebounding, the size. Go back to that game against South Carolina 2 years ago in the Final Four. What Caitlin was able to do in a game like that, where they were just absolutely physically manhandled. It's incredible. Go back to the win last year against UConn. Look back at some of these games, and you look at just the difference in the physical style of play that I was going up against. And I think it should take all of us to realize how special it was. What we were able to see and witness is something that is an absolute rarity. Tip of the ball cap to CC, even a year removed. We continue Locked On Hawkeyes. Let's get into the new hire. Ben McCollum, David Eickholt from 24/7 Sports, Hawkeye Insider. He was at the forefront of the conversation, how things went down and what Iowa fans should expect now going forward. We'll talk about that as we continue. David Eickholt joins us next. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On College basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to unexpected upsets, these guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada and clear-cut team of the week is the Arkansas Razorbacks. Despite losing their first 5 SEC games, Coach Cal's Hogs fought their way through the most rugged conference in college basketball to not only make the NCAA tournament, but knock off back-to-back national champion and Hall of Fame coaches en route to the Sweet 16. They accomplish all this without their second leading scorer, Boogie Flan, for most of the SEC play, and without leading scorer and rebounder, Adu Thior, so far in the tournament. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Arkansas Razorbacks have done here. It's clear that our team of the week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of the Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop at nissanusa.com. That's nissanusa.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Fabric by Gerber Life. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. As a parent, I want to make sure my family is financially protected no matter what happens. Fabric gives me that peace of mind. And find something affordable. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. Fabric also offers free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your children's future. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their families. Apply today in minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to change, subject to underwriting and health questions.
David, Trent, and Ken, good to hear from you. I know you guys are awful busy over there. By all accounts, Beth Getz did a pretty good job, pretty clandestine job. I don't know how far down the list she went. I mean, how far DeVries was above, if we assume that he was. But it seems like there's a lot of positivity amongst the Hawkeye fans today that they are very grateful that Beth Getz was able to land Ben McCollum. Is that kind of how you're reading your boards and seeing your feedback?
That's funny you bring that up, because I was just about to say, do you realize how difficult it is to get a Hawkeye Insider message board to agree all at once?
Wow.
and they said A+, and they're exactly right. I mean, this is not just a home run, it's a grand slam. I have reason to believe, after talking to a lot of people, that Darren DeVries was number one on the donors want list. I believe Ben McCollum was number one by Beth Getz this entire process. I think neither choice was wrong. I think Darren DeVries would provide some instant, excitement and all that. But I'll tell you, man, I think the more people dug into Ben McCollum and watched Drake and watched everything kind of play out, I think everybody's all in on Ben McCollum. And again, I think this is a massive home run hire, and I'm very, very eager to see how this roster shakes out. But from talking to a lot of people, former players of his, people in the college basketball world, I mean, I'm very comfortable saying he's probably one of the best X's and O's coaches all across the game right now.
And you couple it with, though the NIL budget for men's basketball is going to be better, it's not going to be elite. It's probably not even going to be middle of the pack in the Big Ten. So you have to kind of do things a little bit differently. And it feels like Ben McCollum is as well equipped as anybody on their coaching list to be able to do something like that. You talk to people in the basketball community, he's looked at like a savant, right? People are just amazed what he's able to do and do it. It's not that they're out athleting people year after year at Northwest Missouri State. It's just they're out basketballing him. That's got to be exciting from an Iowa perspective, because though in order to compete, you got to have a little bit of money. You're never going to be able to compete at that kind of level. Is that part of your excitement, David, when you look at this, is knowing that he's the kind of guy that's going to be able to get the most juice when he squeezes it?
Drake won 31 games with mostly a D2 roster. That really says it all, what you need to know. I mean, the ability to take D2 talent, move it to the mid-major, and execute at that high level, it's got to be incredibly exciting. And I think Iowa fans watched them in that first round game against Missouri. Like, it's a slower pace, but God, this is exactly how they won games. They were incredibly locked in on defense. They're rebounding. They out-hustled people. And they always got good shots late in the shot clock because eventually the opposing defense makes a mistake. You're exactly right. Iowa's NIL is not going to be top 5, not going to be top 10 in the conference. But you get the like-minded guys that are just pure basketball players kind of re-engage with the community, get the fan base's excitement up. And then if that translates into wins, the budget's going to increase in itself, right? So I think that's just kind of the big thing right now. If I'm Ben McCollum, number one thing I do is I find a way to get Bennett Sturts in a Hawkeye uniform.
Apparently it's already done. Are you hearing that?
I've heard it's very likely. But, I'm really curious if Bennett Sturts enters the portal, if he has a do not contact tag. Because if he can be contacted and some of the money that could be potentially thrown at him, I mean, we all know that's what it is, right? I mean, Price Sanford, some of the figures I've heard he's getting in the portal, it's big.
It's wild.
Josh Dix is probably, he could be making 7 figures at school next year. Owen Freeman could as well. Like, these are very, very high up numbers. But it will be interesting. So, Trent, like you said, I think number one is just getting the right guys, maximizing their potential, and see if you can kind of continue to increase the budget as the wins drag along. But again, from a tactician standpoint, from a guy that's a perfect culture fit for what Iowa wants to be, you really couldn't have done any better.
Those 3 that you just mentioned, I guess throw in Dembali. Mulvey's a transfer as well, although I don't think that, Hawk fans are losing a ton of sleep wondering, will he or won't he? Is there a chance or isn't? Is he gone? Can we keep him? Is there a chance, I guess, likelihood that who is more likely to stay that is in the portal now from McCaffrey's last team? Any idea?
I think Josh Dix is gone.
Yeah.
I think that they're really going to go really try to get him, but I just think there's too much money being thrown around, and I don't think anybody's going to blame him on that.
Nope.
I think Price Sanford could potentially return. I would lean more toward no at this point in time, but I will not be surprised if he does end up coming back. I don't think Lodgy Dembele will be back. I'm very curious if Seydou Traore ends up sticking because I just look at his game. He's athletic. He can rebound. He can lock in on defense. I think he could be a guy that not you build everything around, but I think he could be a really nice depth piece. And then I'm very curious what happens with Isaiah Johnson-Arague, the Miami transfer. Kind of a rough situation for him, obviously, leaving Miami early on and then transferring to Iowa only for Fran to be let go. But, maybe he's the guy that can fit in that system as well. But I would tell Iowa fans is this. Expect a full new team next year. It's just that's the way this entire thing works. I think Ben McCollum is very comfortable in the transfer portal, and he's already getting after it from what I've been hearing too.
So when we look at the portal and what they're going to be able to do, they're not going to be able to compete at the top, right? They're not going to be the Hunter Dickinson from 2 years ago. They're not doing that. What tier of guy are we looking at, though? With this new money that they have, are we looking at the likelihood of bringing in a couple of top 50 type of players, or even that, is that a little bit of a stretch as you know it right now?
I mean, it's still a little bit early, and I'll tell you, this portal's getting updated. So, I could tell you a top 50 guy right now, but he might be 97.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at. I don't think they're really concerned about the rankings. I think they're looking for just pure basketball players. I think that right now they just need to overhaul the new roster. And it's what I've said about football recruiting. We've talked so much, many times over the years, guys. What do I say? Dudes recruit dudes. Dudes want to play with good basketball players and good coaches. And I think the best thing for Iowa is Ben McCollum has kind of ascended into his own brand with his obviously signature look, but the way he's talked about from an analyst point of view within the coaching world, within the basketball world in itself, I think it's just going to be a really kind of a niche that Iowa might be able to utilize to build a pretty competitive basketball team next season. Now, of course, I'm not going to sit here and spill you guys hot takes this early. I know it's usually me. I don't even know what the roster is going to look like right now, but I do expect Iowa to be a very competitive team because it just goes back to what I've always said. Winning translates, and all Ben McCollum does is win.
Yeah, I Leistico tweeted this a little bit ago, reminded us of Calipari's first press conference in Arkansas. I spoke to the team. There is no team. We're going to hear a lot, which was spot on.
It's the Will Smith gif of him looking around the room and just nobody's there.
No one's around.
Yeah, good stuff. David Eickholt is joining us, HawkeyeInsider.com. Well, good stuff. If indeed, is this going to generate, I mean, if your board's an indicator, maybe the answer is yes. I mean, are the phones ringing? Do people still phone to buy tickets and ticket up? Not anymore for my age. Yeah. Are people hopping online to secure their tickets for next year? Can you see that happening? Maybe not selling out the building, but there will certainly be, more buzz than we've seen around the men's basketball program for the last few years.
The buzz is definitely there, but I'm not going to say that Keyboard Warriors directly impact ticket sales right away. Like we need to go see that in the building right now. But a lot of people have said they've donated more money to Swarm. A lot of people said they're going to put ticket deposits down. But we're going to see what happens at tip-off. But I do expect that. I think Iowa fans are going to give him a pretty warm welcome because just from all the reaction from everyone. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not pinning this on Fran McCaffrey. I'm not pinning on the last coaching staff or players or anything like that. I think there's just kind of a renewed excitement about this right now, and it's just something different than Iowa's had. It's very much almost like what Fran McCaffrey did post Todd Licklider, right? When it was like, let's get mad again. We're going to run. We're going to score. We're going to excite the fan base. But just from an energy perspective and shifting that mindset, I think I can see some parallels there.
You mentioned the coaching staff. Any chance? I mean, does anyone join McCollum's? I guess where I'm going is Matt Gatens. Is he got a chance to stick around? What have you heard anything, or is it just too early at this point?
I mean, I've heard that potential. It wouldn't surprise me because I can tell you Matt Gatens wants to be in Iowa City. I think he'd fit in really well with Ben McCollum. Just two big basketball X's and O's guys. I think Tommy Birch threw this name out. Josh Sash, Tyler Sash. Maybe he comes over to Iowa. I've been hearing rumblings about that as well. But other than that, I still think it's been a little bit too early. I have heard a couple other names, but I just don't know how credible they are at this point where I can really throw them out. But I will say I think we're going to hear some clarity on that very quickly because they know they got to be working the portal. They got to be working the phones because time is not resting for them at all.
Tristan Spurlock maybe could be a holdover. His connection to Josh Lewis, who was, of course, one of their biggest recruits ever from a season ago. And I think we have to remember, and I kind of forgot about it until we started to go with this, they're now allowed 5 assistant coaches, not the old days of 3 assistant coaches. Yep. So a little bit more depth there, David, for you to kind of spread your wings and do some different things, I guess, with assistant coaches.
Yeah, and like I said, it'll be really interesting. I do think that Ben McCollum is so savvy in utilizing his resources. And let's put it bluntly, guys, he's never had resources like this before. And that's no shot at Northwest Missouri State or Drake. But the Big Ten is just a completely different level. So I'm very curious how he kind of attacks everything. And I'm very curious to see how he recruits because he's been typically a guy that sticks in the Midwest for the most part and talks to the right people. Is he going to try to make Iowa's name more nationally known and get some of those guys we've seen on the coast or different AAU circuits? Or is he going to say, you know what, I'm going to build this program from Iowa in the Midwest and then maybe go beyond past that? So again, this is new territory for Ben McCollum too, because I just don't think he's really had these sort of possibilities before.
Did you just see the tweet that the Iowa men's basketball program sent out? It's a picture of Tom Davis, and I'm guessing a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 9-year-old Ben McCollum.
Wow.
Just the two of them.
That's a nice little poll.
How about that, right?
So I talked to somebody Friday that grew up with McCollum, and he told me that he was as big of an Iowa basketball fan as you can find.
Well, this backs it up.
And you have this connection here. Having somebody, now it's also for me and McCollum are the same age. So the memories that I talk about, Ken, and you roll your eyes sometimes at me and talk about what Iowa basketball was. David, you're too young to remember what it is, but I go down this path a lot. For us guys in our 40s and into their 50s, Iowa basketball was it. It was the thing in this state. And getting somebody that understands that, again, this is selfish me because he's my age, but boy, I just love this and that kind of connection and what Ken said there. The fan base, it feels like this feels different than even McCaffrey. This feels different than Licklider. Am I onto something? Are you getting that same kind of vibe too, David?
No, I think you brought up a really important point, because if there's a demographic that's really kind of checked out over the last couple of years, it's your exact demographic.
Yep.
Right? I think even like, I know college kids haven't really gone, but I still think the young Iowa fans or young adult Iowa fans still showcase their love for the program. The generation just past you was doing that, but it's just kind of your generation where they were waiting to get a flashback of the past, some of that nostalgic feeling. But a blend of nostalgia versus renewed love and passion and energy. And I think that's what Ben McCollum's going to find. And I don't know if you guys saw this. Somebody found a poll from Ben McCollum's Twitter back in 2014 where he quote tweeted a Nebraska fan that was chirping Iowa, and he chirped them right back after Iowa beat Nebraska in football.
No kidding. Wow.
He's a true one.
Yeah, this is a fit, maybe, right? Even more so than we realize. David, we'll never know the answer to this question, but you might have, in the digging that you've done leading up to eventually the hire being made. Well, who was number 3? I mean, if McCollum would have gone to West Virginia or said, you know what, I love Drake, I'm going to stay here. Do you know who her number 3 or number 4? Where would she have turned next? Any idea?
Man, that's kind of, I would say, the High Point coach, Alan Huss, was probably on that list. I know they interviewed a couple of assistant coaches at the NBA level. I know they looked at Jared Calhoun. I heard they interviewed twice, but I think he's going to West Virginia. And I think that's where he wants to be. I don't think he really seriously ever wanted the Iowa job, but it would have been a nice fallback plan. But I'll say this again to just kind of sum up everything. Trent, you and I talked about this when we hung out a couple of days ago. If Iowa did not land Ben McCollum or Darren DeVries, it would have plummeted the program for the next decade. And I'm not being over dramatic about that.
It would have been Penn State basketball. I think that's how bad it would have been buried.
It would have been awful. I think it would have gotten to a point, seriously, where it's not even a top 4 sport in Iowa.
You'd taken, we heard that investment that Beth Getz is going to make. Obviously, football is going to get the most possible. And then that trickle down women's and maybe you just make the decision, hey, we're just going to invest more in women's basketball. We're going to invest in wrestling. We're going to invest in even baseball or softball or soccer, whatever it is, because that's how dead it could have been. This was a hugely important hire for Beth Getz. And we kind of come full circle here. Your first go around seeing her, because the Gia Jetson one doesn't count. Let's be honest, from last year.
Yeah.
What kind of grade?
The big one's coming, boys.
What kind of grade, knowing what happened with DeVries a week ago, what would you give Beth Getz?
A+.
Yeah, on this. Yeah,
I seriously think it's either an A. It's either an A or it's an F if she didn't get him.
Yeah,
they were so driven on those two. They're seriously, they were so driven on those two candidates. And if people have been really kind of following the process, like that's who they zeroed in on. They did their due diligence. They interviewed everybody else. But after seeing Iowa fans and seeing the way people have reacted, you had to land one of those two. And the thing about Beth Getz that I think people need to look at her, and like I respect probably the most about her and the way she's conducted her business and her job, her self-awareness is incredible, and her willingness to learn what Hawkeye fans want. Because I think some athletic directors are they get tunnel vision. They don't really know. They're just kind of stuck in their own ways. I think Beth's been very adaptable, and I think she's been very self-aware, and I think she just understands what needs to be done at a high level. We talked when she first got hired. I thought it was a home run hire, and so far, I think she's probably done about everything right. So.
David Eickholt joining us from 24/7 Sports. We continue. Locked On Hawkeyes, that transfer portal window, it is open. Who are the Hawkeyes shopping for? We'll talk about that as we continue. Locked On Hawkeyes. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including AI, IT, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who can deliver incredible results. Plus, it's fast and easy. Posting a job is free and simple within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring a full-time person, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The NCAA Tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA Tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
One final time back with you, Locked On Hawkeyes. I'm Trent Condon. So the transfer portal is open, and there's going to be a ton of rumors flying. We'll pass around anything that we hear. We will keep you updated on everything, but it happens quick. I mean, the change of information, guys visiting, all those things. We'll see what Coach McCollum's going to do with his staff. There's so much to get into. So later on Tuesday, we're going to get his introductory press conference. We will have a full breakdown of what we hear from Coach McCollum coming up on our edition, coming up on later on Tuesday evening into Wednesday morning. Then we will hear from Kirk Ferentz on Wednesday, setting the scene for Iowa football and spring football. Really looking forward to that. Should be an absolutely a great time getting ready for football season. A thing that we just haven't talked a ton about. Spring sports are here. We're going to get more into that. We have you covered each and every day, talking all things Iowa Hawkeyes. Ben McCollum is the man. The Iowa women go down, disappointing end to that run and what was a very good season overall. That'll do it for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow as always. Make sure you like and rate Locked On Hawkeyes. Give us a like on the YouTube side of things, and a follow greatly helps us each and every day being with you. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Hawks.